I'm amazing. What the hell? Fucking fuck. What the fuck? I should really write this down. Fuck it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Amyrlin study. I'm Jess, your Amyrlin seat, and today we are going to dive into Chapter 2 of The Eye of the World. But before we get started, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. We all love housekeeping, right? It's so much fun. Be sure to take a second to subscribe to my channel and smash that like button. You can also give me a follow on social media. I am at Amyrlin Study on Twitter and Instagram. And if you like what I'm doing and want to support the show, you can head on over to my Patreon, amyrlin.study/Patreon. Now I have one more really fucking exciting thing that I want to share. And then we're going to start reading, I promise. So I have started a podcast with Valon and Nameless from The Great Blight called Valon After Dark. It's part sketch comedy, part Wheel of Time discussion, part general bullshit. And we are having so much fun with it, y'all. Seriously, I don't ever listen to my own stuff. And I listened to it like 3 times today. And I just kept laughing because it's like, it's so funny. Our first episode just dropped on Monday. So if you are looking for some fun snack-sized entertainment, definitely give it a listen. Even if you're not looking for some snack-sized fun entertainment, give it a listen. You should listen to it because it's amazing. You can find Valon After Dark at thegreatblight.com/Valon After Dark or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, let's read some fucking fantasy. I have this weird thing where I need to be able to see myself, which is so dumb. I shouldn't be looking at myself. It's distracting. All right. Needlepoint. Let's get that all set up here. If you will recall, we're doing a cute little sampler about friends. This is how far we've gotten. And let's see how far we get with the company of Michael Kramer. My dog is giving me a foot bath, and it's really distracting. I love him so much.
Chapter 2. Strangers.
Ooh.
When Rand and Matt carried the first barrels through the common room, Tam stood in front of the big fireplace of river rock, thumbing a long-stemmed pipe full of tobacco from a polished canister the innkeeper always kept in the plain stone mantel.
420 blaze
The
it.
fireplace, but 4 more members of the village council, including Sen, sat in high-backed chairs in front of the fire.
It's a
mugs in
party,
hand,
all
and blue-gray
right.
pipe smoke wreathing their heads. The men did not even talk, peering silently into their ale, or tapping pipe stems against their teeth in impatience as they waited for Tam and Bran to join them.
Sounds like fun.
Worry
Fun
was
group.
not uncommon, though who knew what Tarn fairy folk really thought about anything.
I mean, really.
Only 2 of the men before the fire so much as glanced at the boys as they entered. Master Luhan, though, made it more than a glance. The blacksmith's arms were as big as most men's legs.
He's watching
roped with
you.
heavy muscle. His frown took them both in.
Why is he mad dogging him like
Curious,
that?
Rand slowed. He cut off abruptly as Mistress Alvir bustled out of the kitchen, the aroma of fresh-baked bread wafting ahead of her.
Nom, nom, nom,
The
nom.
tray in her hands, the food reminded Rand abruptly that he had eaten only an end of bread before leaving the farm that morning.
That is
His
not a
stomach
balanced
gave an
breakfast.
embarrassing rumble. She was one of the few married women in the area who never tried to play matchmaker with Tam.
Well, that's
Toward
nice.
Rand, her motherliness extended to warm smiles and a quick snack whenever he came by the inn.
You can always count
At
on
least she
Marin
took it no
for
further
fucking
than looks,
fruit
for which he was
roll-ups and
deeply
shit.
grateful. Without waiting for a reply, she swept on into the common room.
Look at this shit. Look at this fucked up knot shit that I just did. Fucking fuck. Meh.
Honey cakes, Matt said, smacking his lips.
Cakes.
After, Rand told him firmly, or we'll never get done.
That's right.
A
Keep
lamp
that boy on
hung over the
task.
cellar stairs, just beside the kitchen door, banishing all but a little dimness in the furthest corners.
That's where the
Wooden
ghosts
racks
are.
along the walls and across the floor held casks of brandy and cider, and larger barrels of ale and wine.
Fucking hook me with some of that
taps driven
brandy.
in. Many of the wine barrels were marked with chalk in Branalvir's hand, giving the year they had been bought, what peddler had brought them, and in which city they had been made.
So
But all of
organized.
the ale and brandy was the make of Two Rivers farmers or of Bran himself. But it was never as good, and
And they said,
cost
"Get
the
the
earth
fuck out of
besides,
here with your
and
shit
nobody
brandy."
ever drank it more than once. What did you do that you have to avoid Master Luhan? Nothing, really. I told Dan Alcar that some farmers had seen ghost hounds breathing fire and running through the woods. They ate it up like clotted cream. And Master Lujan is mad at you for that?
Objectively,
Rand
clotted
said
cream is
doubtfully.
really good.
Matt paused,
Aha!
then shook his head.
Got it.
You see, I covered 2 of his dogs with flour, so they were all white.
My dude.
Then I let them... How was I to know they'd run straight home?
My dude.
It really isn't my fault. If Mistress Lujan hadn't left the door open, they couldn't have gotten inside.
Do you not even know how
It isn't
dogs
like I
work?
intended to get flour all over her house. If I were you, I'd worry more about Alsbeth Lujan than about the blacksmith.
She will fuck
She's
you
almost
up.
as strong, and her temper is a lot worse. Matt's expression said he did not think Rand was funny. With his back to the fire, Tam was speaking in a low voice, and the others were leaning forward to listen.
Secret.
So intent on his words, they would likely not have noticed if a flock of sheep had been driven through.
I find that hard to believe.
Rand wanted to move. On their return to the hallway, they found a tray by the top of the steps and hot honey cakes filling the hall with their sweet aroma. There were 2 mugs as well, and a pitcher of steaming mulled cider.
Oh, I could
Despite his own
fuck up
admonition
some mulled
about
cider.
waiting until later, feet clattered on the stairs, and Ewan Fingar half fell into the cellar in his haste, his pudgy face shining with eagerness to impart his news. There are strangers in the village! He caught his breath
Dun, dun,
and gave
dun.
Matt a wry look. I haven't seen any ghost hounds, but I hear somebody flowered Master Lujan's dogs.
Ah, busted.
Ewan looked uncertainly from one of them to the other, then spoke quickly when Matt
Your
took a
boy
threatening
wasn't
step.
looking for a fucking
Of course I could see
interrogation.
his face. And his cloak is green, or maybe gray. It changes. Sometimes you don't
Ooh,
see him,
fancy.
even when you look right at him. And hers is blue, like the sky.
Like the
And 10 times
sky.
fancier than any feast day clothes I ever saw. She's a high-born lady, like in
Oh.
the stories. She must be.
She must be.
Her? They're the ones I meant to tell you about, Matt muttered, before you got me off onto...
Jesus,
He
Matt.
cut off. I never saw horses so tall or so sleek. They look like they could run forever.
Amazing horses.
I think he works for her. They call it being in service in the stories.
Duh.
He makes the merchant's guards look like cur dogs.
Not just any
Her-
dog, a cur dog.
I never even imagined anyone like her. Outsiders never came into the 2 Rivers.
Nobody
Or
comes
as
to
good as
your
never.
one-horse
Maybe a
town.
town ferry, but not this far south. It was a good 5 years since the last time a real stranger appeared in Emmons Field, and he had been trying to hide from some sort of trouble up in Valon that nobody in the village understood. He
Criminal.
had not stayed long. I don't care what they want. Strangers, Rand. And strangers like you never even dreamed of.
The
Rand opened
fanciest
his
fucking
mouth,
strangers,
then closed
man.
it without speaking. It just seemed like an awful coincidence. 3 strangers around the village at the same time. 3.
No such thing
if
as
this
coincidence.
fellow's cloak that changed colors never changed to black. Moraine, he called her. The Lady Moraine.
The lady.
The wisdom may not like her, but I do. What makes you think Nynaeve dislikes her? She asked the wisdom for directions this morning and called her child. Rand and Matt
Oh.
both whistled softly through their teeth. She's always asking questions about how old people are and how long they've lived where they live.
Fucking nosy.
Oh, I don't know what all. Nynaeve
their
answered
social
like
security
she'd bitten
numbers?
a green sweet berry. When the Lady Moraine walked away, Nynaeve stared after her like he wasn't friendly, I can tell you that. Is
Nynaeve
that
wanted
all?
to do a
Rand
murder.
said. When Senbui called her a child last year, she thumped him on the head with her stick, and he's
Fuck
in the
yeah,
village
girl.
council. I don't care who Nynaeve thumps, Matt chortled. So long as it isn't me.
Euphemism
This
drive
is going to be
engaged.
the best Beltane ever. Bran Elvire spoke now, his normally bluff voice pitched so low that only a rumbling murmur
Bluff?
traveled beyond
A
the
bluff
close-gathered
voice?
chairs.
Weird word.
The mayor, they all nodded in agreement with whatever he was saying, though Sen more reluctantly than the rest.
Natch.
The way the Matt and Ewan stood glaring at one another a few paces from the front door of the inn, their cloaks whipping in the wind. I am not playing a trick on
All
you.
we are
There is
is
a gleeman.
cloaks in the
Now go away.
wind. It took me too long
Rand,
to
will you
think of
tell
that.
this woolhead I am telling the truth so he'll leave me alone?
Yeah.
He was being watched again. Then something led him to turn around, to raise his eyes. On the edge of the inn's tile roof perched a large raven, swaying a little in the gusting wind from the mountains. One beady black eye was focused on him, he thought. He swallowed, and suddenly anger flickered in him. I am tired of being stared at, Matt growled. The 2 stones flew true, and the raven stepped aside. The stones whistled through the space where it had been.
Matt and Rand
stared
said,
at the
fuck
bird in
that bird, and the
consternation.
bird said, fuck you back.
A vile bird, came a woman's voice from behind them, melodious despite echoes of distaste. With a shrill cry, the raven launched itself into the air so violently that 2 black feathers drifted down from the roof's edge.
Goodbye forever.
This had to be the Lady Moraine, and she was everything that Matt and Ewan had said. Everything.
Oh,
he had pictured her as old, but she was not. At least, he could not put any age to her at all. She held herself with a grace and air of command that made him feel awkward and stumble-footed.
She fancy.
And he felt ungainly in his tallness. Altogether, she
Yeah,
was
man,
like
be
no one he
shorter.
had ever seen before. He had never seen a grown woman with her hair unbraided. Every girl in the Two Rivers waited eagerly for the woman's circle of her village to say she was old enough to wear a braid.
Interesting.
Her cloak was sky blue velvet with thick silver embroidery, leaves and vines and flowers all along the edges.
I want one.
While another gold chain, delicate and fastened in her hair, supported a small sparkling blue stone in the middle of her forehead. A wide
Fancy.
belt of woven gold
It's like
encircled
a head
her waist,
necklace.
and on the second finger of her left hand was a gold ring in the shape of a serpent biting its own tail. An even older symbol for eternity than the Wheel of Time.
That's the
Fancier
name
than
of the
any
book.
feast day clothes, Ewan had said. Matt echoed somewhat more smoothly, but only a little.
Smooth
She smiled, and Rand found himself wondering if there was anything he might do for her. It really was just like seeing a gleeman's tale come to life. Matt
Girl
had a foolish
crazy.
grin on his face. Ewan leaped forward before either of the others could speak. I told them your name. That's how they know. I heard Lan say it, but
Be
it wasn't
cool for like a
eavesdropping.
second, dude.
No one like you has ever come to Emmonsfield before. And tonight is winter night. Will you come to my house? My mother has apple cakes.
No chill
I shall have to
whatsoever.
see. But you must call me Moraine. She looked expectantly at
Did
Rand
she
and
fucking
Matt.
stutter?
I'm Matt from Cawthon. He made a stiff, jerking bow, then went red in the face as he straightened.
Dork.
At least he did not stumble over his own tongue this time.
Good work.
Moraine looked from him to Matt and back again. I may have some small tasks to be done from time to time while I am in Emmonsfield. Perhaps you would be willing to assist me?
Girl, run your
She
own
laughed
errands.
as their accents tumbled over one another. Here, she said, and Rand was surprised when she pressed a coin into his palm, then pressed Matt's hand around one the same way she had Rand's. Why have you come to Emmonsfield?
Excellent
Her expression
question.
was unchanged, but suddenly he wished he had not asked. It's just that no one comes into the Two Rivers except the merchants. and
Nobody comes to
peddlers
this
when
shit-ass
the snow isn't
town.
too deep to get down from Valon. I am a student of history, she said at last.
Mm-hmm.
A collector of old stories. This place you call the Two Rivers has always interested me.
Right.
Sometimes I study the stories of what happened here long ago. Whatever happened in the Two Rivers to interest someone like... I mean,
Oh,
what
boy.
could have happened here? As the wheel of time turns, Moraine said, half to herself and with a distant look in her eyes, places wear many names. Men wear many names, many faces. Different faces, but always the same man. Yet no one knows the great pattern the wheel weaves.
Ominous.
We can only watch and study and hope. Rand stared at her,
The
unable to
fuck
say a
does
word,
that mean?
even to ask what she meant. Moraine focused on them again, and all three gave a little shake as if waking up. She moved on toward the wagon bridge.
Feels some
appearing to
weird
glide
ass
over the
magic
ground
shit
rather than
happening
walk.
there.
As she left, a tall man Rand had not noticed before moved away from the front of the inn and followed her, and his cloak swirled through shades of gray and green and brown as it shifted in the wind.
Mystery
It
man.
almost seemed to disappear at times, that cloak. His hair was long and gray at the temples, held back
Hot.
from his face by a narrow leather headband. In passing the three youths, his gaze ran over them. It was as if he were weighing them in his mind, and there was no sign on his face of what the scales told him. He quickened his pace until he caught up to Moraine. That was Lon, Ewan said throatily. I'll bet he's a warder. Don't be a fool, Matt laughed, but it was a shaky laugh.
Yeah, dummy.
Warders are just in stories.
Yeah.
Anyway, warders have swords and armor covered in
Yeah.
gold and jewels, and spend all their time up north in the Great Blight, fighting evil and Trollocs.
Tell
and such.
him.
Did you see any jewels or gold on him?
Yeah.
Matt scoffed. I wonder what could ever have happened here to interest someone like her. They say the inn's been here for 1,000 years, maybe more.
That's
1,000
old
years
as
of
shit.
sheep, Matt
Fucking
said.
historic
penny.
marker.
She gave me a whole silver penny. Think what I can buy when the peddler comes.
So much stuff.
Rand opened his hand to look at the coin she had given him, and almost
Like,
dropped
think
it in
of all the
surprise.
Hot Wheels you could
He
get
did not
with that much
recognize
money.
the fat silver coin with the raised image of a woman balancing a single flame on her upturned hand. But he had watched while Bran
Interesting.
Alvear. That much silver would buy a good horse anywhere in the Two Rivers, with some left over. He looked
Damn.
at Matt and saw the same stunned expression he knew must be on his own face. What kind of chores does she have? Rand asked finally. I don't know, Matt said firmly, and I don't care.
This,
I won't spend it
honestly,
either.
like,
Even when the peddler comes. With
it
that, he
feels a
thrust his
little,
coin into
like,
his coat pocket.
human trafficky.
Nodding,
Like,
Rand
red
slowly did the
flags,
same
red
with
flags.
his. Do you think I should keep mine too? Anguished indecision painted Ewan's face.
No, go get your Hot
Not
Wheels,
unless
baby.
you want to. I'll keep it, he said mournfully.
Aww.
There's still the Gleeman. If he ever wakes up, Matt added.
Lazy ass.
A milling crowd of villagers, from gray-haired oldsters to toddlers barely able to walk,
Oldsters.
escorted a tall wagon toward the bridge. A huge wagon drawn by 8 horses.
That's a lot
The
of horses.
outside of its rounded canvas cover hung about with bundles like bunches of grapes. The peddler had come at last.
Yay!
Strangers and a gleeman, fireworks and a peddler. It was
What
going
a
to be the best
fucking
Beltane
day.
ever.
All right. So we had some interesting revelations in that chapter. The Lady Moraine gives them money, and they have this strange, like, what's the word? I guess they, like, it feels like compulsion is what it feels like. I'm just not sure why she felt like it was necessary to use that on the boys. I mean, they were already absolutely just falling all over themselves. It really doesn't seem like she would need to use compulsion on them to get them to do stuff, but it absolutely seemed like they were under some kind of influence. We had the raven, which, like, what kind of raven sidesteps a stone that gets thrown at them? That's weird. So that probably doesn't bode well. We get hints that there's a greater history in the 2 rivers than what any of them are aware of. So that will be interesting to see if there's a follow-up on that. And, of course, I know that there's a follow-up on that. I've read this chapter now. This is the 4th time that I read this chapter. Yeah, and the boys were given a silver piece with a woman holding the flame of Tar Valon. So we know exactly what that is. Owen or whatever the fuck his name is, he got a different coin. I wonder what that's all about. She's giving out different kinds of money. And then we wind up the whole thing with the peddler finally fucking showing up with the fireworks and all of his other shit. So, like, everybody can go on a shopping spree. It's like Kohl's. If Kohl's were like a food truck pulled by horses. I said what I said and I stand by it. So this is how far we got tonight. Got a couple more. We got one more word and we started on another word. So that's not too bad. Considering that the chapters right now are not too long. Later on, I feel like the chapters are going to be long enough that I'm actually going to be able to, like, complete a whole sampler. Like, I wonder how much shit I could get done if I did all of the last battle in one go. I wonder how long that would take me. I should check and see how many hours the last battle is. That's a long ways down the road. I am getting ahead of myself. I'm getting way, way ahead of myself. Oh. Well, I think I'm going to let you go. Thank you very much for stopping by. And until next time, remember to hydrate and don't accept money from strange women, no matter how pretty they are.